Hi, Stampers. It's Nancy from stampandshout.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm here every Tuesday at 7 o'clock to share with you some of my cards and creations, hopefully to inspire you a little bit, maybe pick up a few tips. And tonight I am using a new stamp set in the annual catalog. It's called A Fish and a Wish, and it comes with a coordinating punch. So we're going to make a couple of cards with that. I'm also going to bring in, I'm going to use the stamps from a jar of flowers, and I'm going to use the coordinating punch with that. So that'll be fun. That'll be our second card. And for this card, I'm also using the postage stamp, the rectangular postage stamp punch. So these are all current items that you can find in the annual catalog, but don't worry about it because I will have all the information on my blog, stampandshout.com. So I'll have the sizes and the supplies there, and I'll also list the supplies in the description of this video down below. And they're clickable shopping links. You can shop with me for any of these supplies, and let's get started. So I don't have the actual card for the other, I don't have the actual card because I already mailed that one out, but we'll make that second card. You might have saw the picture on my Facebook group. But first we're going to make this one, A Sea of Thanks, and this one uses the fish punch, and it also uses the postage stamp punch. Postage stamp punch, that's hard to say. Okay, so for the supplies, I'm using for the base Starry Night, and it's 8.5 and by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. I'm not sure how that's coming through. It looks like Pacific Point, but that is the deeper, darker new in color, and it's called Starry Night. And then I have for the inside a piece of Whisper White that's 5 by 3 3/4. Front, it's not Whisper White anymore. It's Basic White, 5 by 3 3/4. Parakeet Party, that is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4 by something. I don't know. I'm going to have that written down on my blog. And then a piece of Basic White again. So those are just 1/4 of an inch smaller, each one. Then I have some scraps because we're going to do some stamping and we're going to punch them out with that postage stamp. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my fish first. So I just have a little skinny scrap here, and that is going to fit right in my punch like that. And I'm going to punch him in Tahitian Tide. So we'll ink that up. So now the way that this stamps is kind of just a little bit of impressionistic. It's deeper and darker in some spots and lighter in the other. And I'm just going to line it up. And punch out our fish. And then I have the scrap, so I'm going to go ahead and use this, and I'm going to go ahead and start punching out some of these postage stamp pieces, and then I'm going to stamp on them. Just want to make sure I have all my pieces. This is my scrap. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and punch out 5 of these, and then I'm going to stamp on them. Don't you love punches? I thought it would be fun to bring in some of our other supplies and use them on this card. Kind of adds a little bit more interest, and they're always fun to use. And anyway, that's what I did. So I've got 4 of them, and then this one here. And since I have my Tahitian, I'm going to go ahead and start stamping on the Tahitian with the Tahitian. And I used the seaweed, I guess, stamp. That would be, I guess that's what you would call it. And I did 1 stamp and 1 or 2 stamps of this color. Hang on, I want to check my color here. Okay. I'm going to turn that over. It looked kind of greenish to me. So anyway, I am just stamping a little bit of color on each one of these rectangles. Whoop, first in the Tahitian Tide, and then next in the Parakeet Party. So let me just clean this off. Get some of that off of there. Now I'm going to bring in the parakeet and stamp again. So here's my little postage piece, and I'm just going to, you can turn it, you can just stamp it with a second color, just to get extra color on there. And when you get it on your card, it really looks pretty. You can overlap it a little bit if you want. And here's our last one. And I think I'll go a little bit upside down with this one. Okay, so those are done. Let me just clean that stamp off. Then I brought in my sponge dauber. And actually I'm going to, since I have my parakeet ink out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp on here before we get to the sponge dauber part. So now I'm bringing in this stamp, which is the little wiggly line stamp, and I am just going to stamp on this piece of rectangle. And I just stamped here and there. And I left a little bit of white on there. And now for my sponge dauber, I'm going to bring back in that Tahitian Tide. And let me show you what I'm going to do. So here's our piece of white that these rectangles are going to go on. And I'm going to glue them on here. And they kind of get lost just a little bit. So I'm going to bring in a sponge dauber and the Tahitian Tide. And I'm just going to ink up the edges just a little bit. Just like that. And that's going to make all the difference in the world. It's going to make it show up, and it's just really quick and easy to do. Just like that. Real quick. Okie doke, that's done. So now I've got one more stamping piece to do on this piece right here. And I'm going to bring in Starry Night, which matches the base color here. And I can see that I didn't put my little sticker on the back of my stamp, but I am stamping the sentiment right at the bottom of that rectangle. Just like that. Clean that stamp off. Now we can put this together. So make sure I get all my pieces right. Okay, so the front, we're just going to glue this piece on, which is the larger white piece. That's 5 by 3 3/4. So we're just going to layer these pieces. Right in the center. Then we'll bring in our Parakeet Party. Hi Cindy, welcome. Yeah, I like these colors together. Pretty. These are those new ink colors, and I really like them a lot. So before I glue this down, I'm going to go ahead and position these and glue these on and get this piece done, and then we'll attach it to the front of the card. So I'm going to put the 4 pieces on, and then that last piece we're going to pop up with dimensionals. I was thinking you could also take the postage stamp, this rectangular cut punch, and then you could cut out pretty designer series paper, but I wanted to use the stamp, and I think it's really pretty. Just like that. So that's going to go right in the center of our card. Like that. Then I'm going to bring in some dimensionals, and I'm going to pop up that center piece. And you know what I'm going to do really quick? I'm going to sponge the edge of that just so it shows up a little bit more with that parakeet party. And it really makes a big difference, I think. It's so simple to do. Just like that. So let's pop this up. I think that's good. When I first made this, this is going to go right in the center. When I first made this card, I just had the fish on here like that with no sentiment, and it looked a little plain, so I decided to add that sentiment right at the bottom, and I'm just going to glue this fish right there and put him at the top. You could make him go either way, up like that way or that way, whichever you prefer. So that's the front. Inside, I'm just going to do a little bit of that seaweed stamp one more time. Make sure it's nice and clean. So I did that in parakeet. So I'm just going to do it, same thing, just to bring some of the color into the inside. And it is supposed to look like that. It's got a little bit of heavier stamping, a little bit of the lighter look, and it looks really pretty in person. And then a little bit of Tahitian, just to bring that color inside. I didn't do this at all yet, so I just wanted to see what do I want. I'm going to bring it up here. I like it. And then I'm going to write a note, sea of thanks. So it's always nice to write a little handwritten note when you're sending out a thank you card. So I don't need to stamp another sentiment in there. Right in the center. Like that. So there you go. I hope those colors are showing up well. They really go well together. So pretty. Okay, so let's get going on card number 2. So the picture of this card is on my Facebook group. And it's really a simple card, but it's really pretty. So I used the contoured dies. I used, excuse me, the first 3 excuse me, the first 3 largest ones. So I cut one out in basic white, one out in parakeet party, and the next one out in the basic white. Then I have a scrap here because I am going to bring in the Jar of Flowers stamp, and we're going to use Orchid Oasis for this. So first I'm going to do is stamp and then punch out my jar. So this is Orchid Oasis. And then I took the smaller stamp that comes in the set and I used the back side of it. So I'm going to stamp again in the Orchid Oasis. It's very full and solid. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp right here at the bottom of my jar, and that way we'll have our water. Perfect. You got to remember to stamp off, or at least I like to stamp off, because otherwise it's really, really dark. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and punch that out with our jar punch. Then I'm going to use this little scrap, and I'm going to bring in another stamp from the A Fish and a Wish. I'm going to use this little guy right here, and I'm going to make a goldfish. So I'm using pumpkin pie, and I'm just looking at my punch because I'm going to put this paper in like that. So I'm going to make sure that I stamp my fish in that direction. That way it's nice and easy to punch. So I'm inking this up with the pumpkin pie. And making a little goldfish. I just want to clean these stamps just in case I use them again. Okay, so now let's bring in our, I'm going to cut this away. I'm going to make a nice little strip. So now I have that strip, and I'm going to just put it in here like this and give it a punch. So that way I'm not wasting the paper up at the top by using that strip. Okay, so there's our goldfish. And now I'm going to bring in that line stamp one more time. And on the smaller piece, I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to bring in Starry Sky. And the sentiment I want to use on this card is Here For You. And I'm going to stamp that right at the top of that rectangle. And I have way too much ink on here. So I'm just going to start over. I got way too much ink on there. Okay, well, let's be a little bit light-handed here. Better. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this right at the top. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my jar, and my jar is going to be tilted. And then I'm going to bring in the Orchid Oasis. Keep the watercolor the same. And I'm just going to stamp some water over here as if it's fallen out of that jar. Just like that. Clean this off. Okay, so now that you can guess what I'm doing here, right? Let's go ahead and put this piece on the front of our card. And then our parakeet party. Pretty colors. And then this piece. And then we're going to put our jar right there. And I think I'll pop that jar up. And I think I'll pop the fish up. So that little jar fell over And our little fish escaped. Like that. Isn't that cute? And then with the sentiment here for you, I think that just really goes well together. So I thought that was so cute. Inside, I went ahead and I'm going to use this big scalloped die cut because I just love the way that looks. And I'm going to glue it inside. And again, I'm not going to stamp another sentiment in here. I'm going to use this to be a handwritten note. So there's your second project, your second card. So if you do like these cards, if you like tonight's projects and you want them delivered right to your house for free, I will give you these make and takes. It's just with a $25 purchase at my online store. These will be delivered right to your house. And also, I will have all the sizes and the supplies listed on my blog. It's out there now. You can Google it, stampandshout.com. So all that information is there. And I hope you like these cards. Go ahead, leave comments. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Click the notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I make a new video. And I am here every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. That's it. Don't be shy. Stamp and shout.